A steady decline in the overall honeybee population is a growing problem worldwide. The decreasing bee population could contribute to dramatic price increases for goods dependent on pollination by bees.
As VOA's Kane Faribaugh reports from Illinois, researchers are studying the decline as beekeepers struggle to keep their colonies and their profits alive. Kane put on a bee suit and he went into the field to talk with one beekeeper about his work, and we talked with Kane about what he found.
The research study that was done by Purdue focuses on this sort of talc, this powder-like substance which helps adhere some of these pesticides known as neonicotinoids to seeds as they're planted into the ground during planting season. So the bees that are flying around into farmlands, into places where they're trying to gather pollen, would come into contact with this talc-like substance, perhaps mistaking it for pollen, and the bees are ingesting it. It's getting into their system.
Since 1954, Terrence Ingram has raised tens of thousands of honeybees in managed colonies behind his house in rural Apple River, Illinois.
We had 250 hives at one time, and we sold 5-6 tons of honey a year.
But that amount is dwindling.
Now we're down to probably about 4 tons.
He says the gradual decline in his bee population began in 1996.
Every 3 weeks that summer, he was spraying with the airplane, and by the end of the year, I didn't have any of my 250 hives left.
This phenomenon caught the attention of researchers like Purdue University entomology professor Christian Krupke.
There have been similar reports from Europe in the past, and so we looked into it a little bit further from the point of view of wondering, first of all, what is killing these bees? And second of all, how are the bees acquiring whatever this toxic chemical is?
Christian Krupke is an entomologist at Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, and he had heard reports about these acute bee deaths. So several years ago, he was part of a group that undertook a research study to really examine what was causing some of these acute bee deaths. And their research pointed to 2 specific substances, or neonicotinoids, that are included in planting of corn seeds. This is the pesticide that's put onto the corn seed in order to basically help prevent them from succumbing to insect damage as they're growing. Part of that research is what's contributed to lawmakers in the European Union from banning these neonicotinoids later on in the year. However, here in the United States, there's no such plan to ban. People on both sides of the argument as to whether or not these should be included outline that there needs to be more research and more studying done. Christian Krupke, the entomologist, he's also indicated that there's more research that needs to be done. However, interesting point he made is that he believes that the research so far indicates that you could do away with these neonicotinoids and still have a successful harvest or a successful planting season.
Well, it's a great story, a very important story, but I'm kind of curious how you approached it, because you had some great shots in there. So did you dress up in the outfit? Did you have the beekeeper mask on? Did you, I mean, how close did you get to the bees?
So we should point out here, first and foremost, I have an irrational fear of bees. I don't like them. I'm always fearful of getting stung. The last time I was stung, I was about 5 years old, and it was a painful and excruciating experience for me. And even though it was such a long time ago, I don't want to be stung by anything. So the first shoot, which we did at Purdue University, they have a separate field where they keep a lot of these managed bee colonies. I asked them, is there any sort of protection that I could wear in order to prevent me from being stung? So from head to toe, gloves, suit, headgear, everything, I wore that, and I charged right into those bee colonies. Now, contrast that with what he was wearing. He was simply just wearing a hat and a mask, and he had no gloves on, nothing else on. He was perfectly fine going into those bee colonies.
But they also, even if you didn't have anything on, the bees are not likely to sting, because they actually spray them, some kind of element that they spray to kind of slow down their agitation.
Well, interestingly enough, I think that part of that spray includes a pheromone which comes from the queen bee themselves. But in both of the shoots where I went out into these managed bee colonies, there was no spraying going on whatsoever. However, again, too, that's also another stark reminder about the nature, I suppose, of the population of bees right now. If this was an ordinary year for bees, or if this was an ordinary circumstance, I couldn't really go into those colonies without there being some sort of fog or smoke applied before you'd go in there to film, because there would be a tremendous amount of bees populating these colonies.
And again, that was VOA's Midwest correspondent Kane Faribaugh. Now, Kane says that in the past 30 years, the number of managed bee colonies in the U.S. has been cut in half, from 4 million to just 2 million colonies.